Teachings of the Kinku order, who believe that everything must be kept in perfect balance. This school is represented by Akali, the Fist of Shadows, Kennen, the Heart of the Tempest, and Shen, the Eye of Twilight. The art of Hiten, teaching you how to become one with your blade. Currently the only
I see you still know that haircut, man.
Alright, okay then. I was going to say, I'll look at that back of that.
the Enlightenment.
There you go.
Sits amongst the elders of one of them. When the League of Justice was first created, the Ionians refused to join it, instead continuing the path of enlightenment.
Asking you to jump off the bed for
The people of Ionia didn't realize that it made them vulnerable to
before you go.
The League's creation caused all wars to be banned and any military conflict would be punished harshly. But that only stood for any states who agreed to join the League. Ionia was not part of it, and because of that, they could be attacked. And so, Noxus seized the opportunity. Southern provinces, wealthy, and with open trade to the mainland, have been attacked by massive forces of Noxian soldiers, transported under the veil of the night. Their strikes were swift and unexpected. With very little resistance, they kept pushing forward. However, with each step the tide of war was turning. The Ionians never attacked back, but they were resisting attacks, refusing to surrender in response of resistance. Noxus' high command would send forth a notice to Zorn, asking for their aid in the matter. Soon after, the island had become covered in a thick cloud of toxic substances, courtesy of Singed and his colleagues. Harm had been caused to civilians in the last months. This was enough. The islanders fought back fiercely, pushing back the Noxians to the southern bases that had been stationed in Ionia. Unfortunately, that still left Noxus in command of the wealthiest provinces. 7 years the provinces have been contested by Noxus before Karma brought the Ionian families together and decided to send a letter to the League of Legends. It was a petition to join the League to drive Noxus out of their land and ensure future security. A few months after, Ionia joined the League, and summoners were chosen for a match now known as the Trial for the Isle. The Ionians fought bravely, but lost due to some questionable circumstances. Many say the victory was caused by what had happened before the match even started. For example, harassing Ionia's champions. 3 southern provinces have now been legally occupied by the soldiers of Noxus in order to develop the island to the level where it would be able to defend itself and economically compete in the world. At least that's what the official note of the Demacian king stated. In reality, it was nothing more than an excuse. The Ionians became second-class citizens and were forced to do labour for Noxians with very little pay whatsoever. It caused a lot of protests, not only on Ionia but the whole of Valoran as well. But no rematch could take place until 10 years had passed. For 2 years the protests continued, which included acts such as self-immolation, but as the protests were growing bigger and more visible, so was the outcry about Noxus exploiting the League's rules. Irelia, Will of the Blades, had demanded right for earlier rematch and was supported by Prince Jarvan IV, which stated that if the League was not going to accept those demands, he would visit Ionia personally. The Noxian High Command decided to grant the Ionians their wish, afraid of the consequences if the outcry for justice would not stop. The elders met and Duchess Karma officially announced Ionia's agreement for the rematch. If Ionia won, Noxus had to withdraw their forces back from the island and repay back everything they'd stolen. However, if Noxus was to win, the southern provinces would be joined to their lands, and the elder meetings would have to be supervised by a Noxian representative. Amumu, Ash, Ken and Soraka Nudia on Ionia's side faced a team of Misfortune, Morgana, Simch, Scion and Vladimir. Gaining a decisive victory, dominating the Noxian force from the very start of the match. Victory had caused the Noxians to fall back and many reunions to take place. The Ionians had begun celebrating even as the Noxians began to leave the island, supposedly never to come back. Well, that's all I've got for you this time around. Let me know what you thought of the video by hitting that like button and leaving your feedback and comments in the section below. The next video will be on Bilgewater and Vandal City, so stick around and expect that video very soon. Thanks for watching everyone, and as always, I'll see you next. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Lore of League of Legends. I'm going to be talking about another pair of city-states today, covering Bilgewater and Vandal City. Let's get right to it then. Enjoy. Bilgewater is a city-state located on Blue Flame Island on the southeastern coast of Valoran. Over the years of its existence, the city has changed from a small port to an officially founded city and a vital trading post for all trading routes around the continent. This has greatly helped with the growth of the state, increasing its wealth and, unfortunately, made the island a major nest of piracy. The natives of Bilgewater are mostly sailors, fishermen and pirates. They've been living off the bounty of the sea for a long time, and no one is thinking of changing that anytime soon. The sea surrounding the city-state seems to be rather safe, especially with the League tending to watch over the isle with a couple of vessels of their own. But of course you can't watch over every bit of sea. Once you leave the borders of Bilgewater, you're on your own. Many Bilgewater pirates have raided every ship that crossed their path, with some even proving bold enough to raid smaller towns on the shores of Valoran. Ionia has been ruthlessly raided for years, but it isn't the only one. Almost every single state has had problems with Bilgewater in the past, with the only exception seeming to be Noxus. While there is no alliance between Noxus and Bilgewater, the two have seemed to cooperate on many occasions. Every time Noxus has been preparing new military campaigns that could have been proven to be profitable, the pirates of Bilgewater have been there, waiting for their opportunity. Even with the League disrupting most of Noxus' plans now, Katarina, the Sinister Blade, is often seen on the streets of Bilgewater. The city-state is brutal and filthy, as everyone could expect from a pirate town. There's no war, no unity, and if you're wanting to survive, you should be carrying a knife, sword or gun. Preferably, all of them. Traditionally, warriors of Bilgewater tend to coat their weapons in drinks from the night before. While this seems nothing more than tradition, weapons prepared in such a way can inflict powerful wounds and often spread diseases. Some of the Bilgewater citizens are not happy with the chaos on the island. Some of them would rather see the nation strong and united. Gangplank, the Saltwater Scourge, and Misfortune, the bounty hunter, seem to agree on that as they both work on uniting Bilgewater society. While piracy doesn't make anyone too enthusiastic about cooperation with the people of Bilgewater, the Yordles of Vandal City seem to be especially reserved. This doesn't come as a surprise, seeing as how many Yordle ships have been raided in the past. But what is Vandal City, you might ask? Ruled by Mayor Denison Jadefellow to observe the way it works, an observer would have to pay attention to the way that the whole race lives. Yordles are far more social than humans, and they just love spending time together, playing, talking, making fun of each other. They aren't as brutal as humans, and their mental health depends on their company. That means that Yordles living with the wrong people can easily become cruel and demented. A good example of that would be Vaygar, the tiny master of evil. One of the city's most curious landmarks is the Mothership, an unfinished rocket that sits above the city centre. There are no records of its origin, and nothing would suggest why it exists. Some say it's how the Yordles first arrived on Valoran, but nowadays the ship is merely a cultural icon. Many want to repair it and make good use of the rocket, but nothing except discussions is ever done. Once in the past, someone tried to abduct the Mothership. Vaygar came up with the perfect plan, involving magical balloons and a horseshoe, but unfortunately, the plan had been foiled by a flock of birds that had accidentally been flying by. The birds flew past the Mothership, cutting off Vaygar's balloons in the process. Hanging on to one last balloon, Vaygar attempted an escape, only to be shot down by Teemo, the swift scout. While many consider Yordles goofy and helpless, this statement couldn't be further from the truth. Vandal City has a couple of renowned military formations, including 3 with champions that have trained in the League of Legends. The Megalin Commandos with Tristan as the Megalin Gunner, Scouts of the Mothership, a group of top recon specialists and deadly assassins with the most ruthless and deadly of them all seeming to be Timo, who drains the life from his targets with deadly poison that he creates himself. The Screaming Yip Snakes, an aerial squadron famous for their intelligence-gathering techniques during missions of high risk and almost certain death. Amongst their ranks is Corky, the deadly bombardier. Of course, those are not all the champions the Yordles have represented. Very few can forget Poppy, the Iron Ambassador, Heimerdinger, the revered inventor, Rumble, the mechanized menace, or Ziggs, the explosive expert. There are also a few Yordle champions that don't live in Vandal City, such as Lulu, the Phase Sorceress, or Kennen, the Heart of the Tempest. They may be small and they may look adorable at times, but remember that they are deadly and such a mistake has cost many their lives. And that's all I've got for you this time around. Let me know what you thought of the video by hitting that like button and leaving your feedback in the comment section below. In the next episode I'll be going over the last two of the city-states, Piltover and Freljord, as well as covering the most recent events of the war in Freljord, as many have asked in the past. Thanks for watching everyone, and as always, I'll see you next time. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Targran, and today I've got another Lore of League of Legends episode for you all. As you might have gathered, I've gone and covered most of the major city-states now, with only two left to be done: Piltover and Freljord. Enjoy. Piltover, the so-called City of Progress, is Valoran's most prominent centre of research and progress. The city's universities, laboratories and academies have been contributing to the science of the continent for many a long year. The only city-state that has even come close to Piltover's achievements has been Zorn. However, the citizens of Zorn do not bother themselves with details such as the protection of the world around them, creating safe environments for their achievements, or a general means of fair rivalry. While Piltover utilizes liquid and gas sources of energy found in liquid marshes that surround the city-state, they tend to care for safety and ecology while working on their technological inventions. The citizens of Piltover share vast thirsts for knowledge, trying to pursue progress in every possible field, ranging from archaeology to technology, as well as renewable energy resources. There's no bigger pleasure to a Piltover scientist than discovering a new way to expand their horizons by finding a new medicine, creating a new invention, or simply just publishing a new essay. The city-state is ruled by a council of representatives chosen by its citizens. Their main role is to ensure that Piltover will continue to develop and to take all political conflicts that might arise. Their main focus, however, is to make sure that all inventions are put to good use as soon as possible. A long time ago, Piltover used to be troubled with plunders and thefts. Rich scientists, more often than not, were always an easy target to be robbed and provided an easy source of income. That was until the father of young Caitlin had been robbed on his way home. The young girl took to the streets and with no help was able to track the bandit and recover what was stolen. Even though at first her parents didn't approve, they would change their minds soon enough due to the stubborn nature of their daughter. They began helping her by creating devices tailored to her needs. She quickly gained a certain reputation without any help, and working on her own, Caitlin was able to track any bandit and get rid of him, thanks to her extraordinary skills as an investigator and marksman. Due to the young sheriff's actions, crime went down to minimum levels, which allowed many organizations to spread their wings and show their full potential. A good example of that would be the Yordle Academy of Science and Progress. There's a large number of Yordles living within Piltover. Many of them have come here a long time ago to sate their hunger for knowledge and were led by Heimerdinger, the revered inventor. Since then, due to the government of Piltover's help, Yordles have been able to form a functional institution at Academy. He has taken part in much research and greatly contributed to the development of Hextech and Techmaturgy. The 7 lenses of insight, a pair of goggles increasing the spectrum of view worn by Master Yi, are a good example of Heimerdinger's inventions. Ezreal, the Grandmaster Explorer of Piltover and yet another league champion derived from the city-state, has become somewhat of an icon to the nation's greed for knowledge. Starting his career by completely mapping out the tunnels beneath the city-state, he's since ventured out on many expeditions, often returning with numerous artifacts for study, and many of his adventures have even been published in the form of romantic novels. Freljord is probably the furthest you can get away from traditional forms of a city-state. For a long time it has been an unwelcome and dangerous place in the north of the Nora. Covered in thick layers of snow, ice storms and blizzards are a common occurrence. A hostile area of the north has been populated by three large tribes. The tribe of the Frost Archer, the Frostguard tribe, and the tribe of the Winter's Claw. While not technically in a state of war, they used to fight each other in smaller skirmishes for various reasons, whether it be for land or the misunderstanding of a trade agreement. When the tribe of the Frostguard had lost their leader due to supposedly natural causes, it was expected for the princess to claim her position. She did. She was quickly crowned the new leader, but during this, shocked her people by claiming she would reach out to the remaining two tribes and form an alliance with them. A positive response was received from Ash, the Frost Archer. She would accept the proposition that the Sandra issued, agreeing to work under common banner to unite Freljord. However, Sejuani, the Winter's Claw, was not so eager to accept the terms of the alliance. She gathered their troops and travelled further into the mountains. To prevent a surprise attack from Sejuani, Ash sent out a call for aid from the barbarians of the north, offering them her hospitality and a chance to prove themselves as proud, honourable warriors. After weeks of meetings and discussions, Tryndamere, the barbarian king, had agreed to join his forces with those who united Freljord. This was beneficial for the alliance, as the barbarians served as good reason for Sejuani to keep her distance. This drew the attention of the League itself. When representatives of Freljord wanted to join the League previously, they were refused the honour as their people were not organised as an official city-state, and no one person could speak for the majority of its citizens. After the joining of the Frostguard and the Frost Archer with the barbarians, they were finally considered a force to be reckoned with. Almost immediately after Freljord had been introduced into the League, the United Tribes chose Ash as their queen. She was the first princess to unite the tribes under a common banner since the War of the Three Sisters a few hundred years earlier. Following the traditions of Freljord, the new queen had been asked to choose a new king for herself. In order to make sure the agreement between Freljord and the barbarians would last, she chose Tryndamere as her king and husband. But this was not the only choice the new queen would make. Nunu, the Yeti rider, was chosen as the first of Freljord's representatives in the League, and the official position of royal advisor was offered to Sejuani. However, she refused, stating she would serve no queen other than herself. Surprisingly enough, many of her people didn't seem to share that idea, as they travelled to the ancient capital, Rattlestake, in order to attend Ash's coronation ceremony. Demacia has had its misdealings with Freljord in the past, but upon hearing rumours of coming evils, Quinn and her companion Fala, the Demacia's wings, were dispatched to the northern lands to pertain if any of the rumours had bearing to them. On her travels and experiences with the various tribes, it became evident that the tribes were divided and Freljord was not secure. But it wasn't until her visit to the Frostguard tribe and her meeting with the Sandra that Demacia's fears would soon come to light. One night within the city of the Frostguard, Quinn discovered a group of the tribe knelt in a circle around a giant stone eye, speaking in a strange tongue that she had no knowledge of. They left the city, but were pursued by Lysandra in her true form as the Ice Witch. Escaping by merely a stroke of luck and cunning, Quinn delivered her report to Prince Jarvan IV, stating that the threat of war in Freljord was very real, and the Frostguard especially had their own agenda in all of this. And that's all I've got for you this time around. Let me know you enjoyed the video by hitting that like button and leaving your feedback in the comments section below. Now that all the major city-states have been covered, it's time to move on to the champions themselves. With a view to be redone completely because of recent changes and past mistakes, the majority will be being uploaded, hopefully with 2 or 3 on a daily basis. Thanks for watching everyone, and as always, I'll see you next time. Welcome ladies and gentlemen to another Lore of League of Legends episode. Now we have the city-states gone and covered, it's time to move on to the lore of the champions themselves. This is where it starts to get interesting, as everyone has their favourites and their hates. So to kick it all off, I'm going to present to you the lore of Annie and Amumu. Enjoy. Annie Halster is the child of 2 powerful mages who left their home city-state of Noxus due to a disagreement between themselves and the Noxian High Command. The High Command had just quelled a coup by the self-proclaimed Crown Prince and had begun to strongly attack all forms of opposition against their rule. Not everyone had been comfortable with the actions of the High Command over the years that had passed. There was a group called the Grey Order who didn't agree with what the government had been doing and at the cost that it had brought to them. This was considered to be opposing the ruling council, and the order was sentenced to exile. Due to their main occupation of studying arcane arts, they didn't try to rectify the situation. They simply decided to leave the city-state without further quarrel, and making their way to the unfriendly voodoo lands located past the barrier mountains that range from the east coast all the way to the western shores of the continent. The situation wasn't ideal, and it was a grueling task to set up a colony in the unfriendly and deadly environments of the voodoo lands. Yet somehow the Grey Order had managed it where many others previously had failed. The Noxian outcasts were doing rather well for themselves considering the circumstances. Years after the Exodus, the married couple that led the Grey Order, Gregory the Great Warlock and his wife Emmeline, the Shadow Witch, were blessed with a child, Annie. Both her parents were powerful spellcasters, and thus their child was expected to be blessed with such power as well. But there was something special about the young girl. Perhaps it was a combination of her lineage and the twisted magic in the voodoo lands, or perhaps there was something else to it entirely. Not too long after her second birthday, Annie ventured outside the safety of the colony's borders and somehow managed to cast a charm on a deadly beast that roamed the wilds, the Shadow Bear. She named him Tibbers and kept him by her side all the time, often spellbound as a doll to be carried around. Since then, her arcane powers have only been growing, and because of that, Annie is one of the youngest champions who have ever stepped onto the fields of justice. Despite her young age, her power is respected by everyone, and many city-states have tried to get Annie on their side. Since her introduction into the League, Annie has become good friends with another champion, Amumu, the Sad Mummy. Amumu is perhaps one of the oddest champions that the League has ever seen. Even amongst visitors from other planes and other monstrosities, the little yordle wrapped in bandages seems somehow out of place. His past is a big mystery, unknown to anyone, including the mummy himself. All he remembers is waking up inside of a pyramid wrapped in bandages and filled with a deep sadness. He couldn't really explain his feelings, but he knew he was missing his parents. No matter what he did, he could never stop himself from crying or feeling sad in general. Eventually, after feeling completely hopeless, he decided to go out and discover the world that he had no memory of. In his journey, he travelled most of the southern Valoran, and even though it didn't help him in remembering his past, it helped him realise what he had become. He was undead, but not derived from evil. He was just sad, and everyone who encountered him shared his sadness. Amumu finally wandered past the Great Barrier and came upon the Institute of War, where he would meet one of the League's summoners. His story struck them as compelling them, perhaps because of their own curiosity, or perhaps because of the compassion they felt. Amumu was invited into the League. This would give the Sad Mummy a purpose in life, and a home that he needed so much. His life has changed, he's made friends, but he still remains curious as to what his past holds, and has hope that someday, someone will help him rediscover it. And that's all I have for you this time around. Let me know what you thought of the video by hitting that like button and leaving your feedback in the comments section below. There's no reason to request any champions, as they've all been done previously in the past, and they should be re-uploaded within the coming weeks, provided there's no issues. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, I'll see you next time.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Targon back once again with another lore video for you. There's not much to inform you about this time around though, so without further ado, I present to you the history of Timo, his swift scout, and his close friend, Tristan. Timo is quite a legend amongst the people of Bandle City and yordles all around the Valoran. His extraordinary scouting skills, proficiency in using his deadly blowgun, and generally friendly and warm character are qualities that yordles value in Timo. Despite all those virtues though, I'm a bit afraid of the champion. He might be a happy and outgoing person in his everyday life, but once he ventures out for a scouting mission, something changes. It's just like Timo would just turn around out of the more friendly part of him leaving only the cruel, merciless hunter. Even back in school, his masters were a bit surprised by how serious he got when simple combat exercises were starting. He was going to a strange place deep inside his mind. Right after his training, he was sent to join the scouts of the mothership, and he quickly became one of the best. Most Yordles can barely be called subtle, but when it comes to scouting missions, not Timo. He can move silently with the greatest of ease, his camouflage skills are outstanding, and not only by Yordle standards. Another great advantage over the scouts is Timo's poison that he personally collects deep in the forest of Kumungru. Deep in the land where encounters with a bloodthirsty beastman is more likely to happen than any sign of civilization, that's where Timo collects his adjunctive poison that he later uses upon his enemies. How does he exactly survive? That's not exactly clear. One explanation could be giving credit to his fur. Just as every male Yordle, Timo is fully capable of changing the colour of his fur. While this is usually a way to draw attention of women while looking for a partner, it could be used to blend in the environment as well. Is that what Timo does? No one is actually certain about this one. To somehow balance out effects of his long isolation from anyone else, Timo has recently been seen more often around Yordle champions, especially Tristana. While both of them call it a friendship, there are many rumours about romantic involvement between these two. Legend Commandos, an elite group that works for the protection of Bandle City. They've always had the renown for their courage, ruthlessness, and ability to get the job done. Legends about their creation and all good deeds they have performed and inspired young Tristana years ago to join the elite Commandos. Her entire life she's trained until she reached the age at which she could easily join the Bandle City military. For a loyal service, she has impressed senior officers who have acknowledged her skills and training, allowing her to join the Legend Commandos like she always wished to. For her whole life, joining the organization was her biggest dream, and her only goal in life. When she achieved it, she wanted to do it the best she possibly could. She did impress many of her skills, soon becoming one of the best Yordle gunners of the generation. In fact, she was so impressive that she drew the attention of the league to herself. Even though her heart still aligned with the military commandos, she agreed to join the league and represent Bandle City together with her fellow Yordles. That is where she met Timo. It was hard not to notice similarities between those two. Both, while happy, cheerful, and friendly in personal life, outside the fields of justice, they became focused and intense as soon as the real fight started. Tristana claims that despite Timo's flaws, there was no one else she'd rather have as a friend, not only on the battlefield but in life as well. The Swift Scout is much different in his views on the Yordle and friends. In his own words, if there's one person who trusts to take on a difficult mission, it's Tristana. And that's actually all we have for you in this episode. Again, I'm running down the pipeline. You don't need to worry those. The next videos are currently written and worked on. While we're working on the next episode though, you can always go back and watch our previous ones. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And as always, I'll see you next time. Welcome ladies and gentlemen, it's Targon bringing you yet another episode of more League of Legends. This time it will be the much anticipated and requested Void. We'll start off with introducing them to a general history and later describing two examples of people who had contact with the Void itself, Malzahar and Kassadin. In this particular episode we'll focus on Malzahar, prophet of the Void and a little friend he has brought from the other side. While our upcoming episode will explain to you the history of Kassadin. Enjoy. Sure, the desert in its current form has been created during the ruined wars of the past. Battles fought here and magical storms have destroyed local environments, leaving only harsh, barren desert. The sun is burning every pitch of land, making it almost impossible to live here. Armadillos are one of the very few races that can survive in such a hot climate. Of course, it wasn't always the case. In the past, Shoreline was a great and mighty civilization, feared and respected by everyone on the continent alike. Citizens of the kingdom were skillful craftsmen. There was no one who could get even close to their mastery in using sandstone for construction and sculptures. Many of their works still remain on the desert, with their arms crossed over their chests and watching the world around them with their golden eyes. Shuri's mages were one of the most powerful spellcasters of all and trained in temples of the Falcon. They would spend years working on their craft. Young apprentices have been learning about every aspect of magic, not only using it for your own needs, but also about its chaotic nature. But many were not satisfied with the teachings of their masters. They wanted something else. They wanted to gain more power, more control over their magic. It's unknown whether they succeeded or not, but there's still much to discover. Mysterious floating pyramids floating around the sands of Shurima still draw attention of many treasure hunters, and mages look for ancient artifacts. One who succeeded was Ezrael, the prodigal explorer who has gained significant magical power after finding an amulet hidden deep inside one of the pyramids. There's one more secret, one place hidden deep beneath the sands of the eastern desert, past the voodoo lines. Acacia, ancient city that had been lost ages ago, and since then it was considered to be a myth and not a historical place. Many explorers have found the city, but almost none were able to come back and share their experience. There were only two, Kassadin and Malzahar. Both spellcasters had entered the city and both had found secrets within its ancient texts. The manuscripts were hiding the secret of contacting the void. While many believe the void to be an empty dimension, it is in fact a realm full of brutal, bloodthirsty, and yet intelligent entities that seek to enter other dimensions and ruin them for unknown reasons. And as we all know, if you gaze into the abyss, it also looks into you. Both Kassadin and Malzahar alike were corrupted by the void. Their reaction to it was completely different. Malzahar had been born as a seer, living amongst the few that still inhabit unfriendly lands of Shurima Desert. His gift of predicting the future had been useful not only to him, but everyone around him as well. But while it was a powerful gift, there was also a dark side to it. His ability to see through lines of time had made him vulnerable while he was unconscious. Every night in his dreams he could hear dark whispers. Whispers coming from somewhere behind the Lauren and being the whole room terror. Whispers of the void were growing louder, planting a seed of darkness inside to see his heart. With every day passing, it was harder to silence the voices that Malzahar could hear. He would finally give in to the temptation and travel to the east, in order to find the lost city of Acacia. He ventured deep into the ancient city and explored it, looking for what had been calling him. And after many long hours, he did. Malzahar had found himself leaning in front of a crumbling obelisk, surrounded with statues of dark gods from beyond this world. He didn't try to run, as the shifting vision into the future had been taken away from him, instead gifting him with another image. Beasts of the void feasting upon him in terror. His mind was weak, the voices in his head had ruined him, and when he became completely submissive to the void's call, he accepted its dark gift. So he was completely reborn with the new power that was given to him. Now Malzahar was no longer a seer. He was now prophet of the void, and his intention was to carry its voice to the League of Legends. When the prophet had been reborn somewhere on the other side, deep in the void, another creature felt something weird. During the rebirth of Malzahar, barrier between his head and the void had been weakened. It had been weak enough that a single creature could make its way through to the other side, and so it did. Following his curiosity, the small beast had stepped into the ruins of the ancient city. He tasted the ruins and they tasted good. He was fascinated by how colourful and tasty this world was. And so, a great journey had begun. Cogmore, the mouth of the abyss, was not given his name for no reason after all. He would explore the real world, but he didn't know. Doing what the only thing he knew, by eating it. He has made his way all the way from Shurima Desert to the Institute of War. Fauna and flora alike had been eaten by Cogmore. He was fascinated by the sheer variety. He didn't seem to bother with the rules of physics. No matter how small Cogmore himself was, he could easily eat objects much larger than himself. Backing a crate to his caustic saliva, instantly melting anything that ever touched his mouth. When Cogmore finally reached the Institute of War, leaving nothing but destruction in his footsteps, he had been greeted by Malzahar and offered an opportunity he couldn't pass to taste the best Valorian had to offer. The greatest warriors and mages of unspeakable power, that was enough to get the mouth of the abyss on his side. And that's all we prepared for you this time round. But as mentioned previously, we've got another episode that'll give you a look into the world of Kassadin, who reacted to his expedition to the void in a completely opposite way. Until then, however, we hope you like the video. Please leave your suggestions and comments below. And you can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or go back and watch all the previous episodes. And as always, I'll see you next time. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to bring you with another episode of Your League of Legends, and we are following the topic from our last episode, which is, of course, the Void. We both share the perspective of Cassidy, which is quite opposite to the views of Malzahar, Prophet and Void that we presented to you last time. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Enjoy. The cave view was a lost city somewhere in the ruins of civilization that had populated shore in the desert and been annoying all sorts of people for years. Treasure hunters looking to earn some gold by selling items hidden within the city. Scientists trying to recreate artifacts that have been buried deep together with the ruins of the city. Mages looking to claim power trapped in ancient scrolls and writings hidden from mortal eyes. Cassidy was one of the latter, a seeker of forbidden knowledge, student of the forgotten magic. He somehow managed to find his way into the lost city, following clues that he had found in all manuscripts available to him. Following writings hidden in the history of Wikicavia, he found out the real purpose of the city and what really caused its destruction. The city itself had been used as a massive portal leading to the void. Since its first opening, it had been buried deep beneath the sands and barely active. The passage has not been large enough for any creatures to get through it, but with his presence in the city, the portal would feast upon his magic powers and use them to grow. Without even realizing it, Cassidy would dig himself deeper into the void with every second. With every book he read, every scroll he opened, the city was getting closer and closer to consuming him as a whole person, trapped here forever, along with the fate of many who had been here before. Cassidy would instead choose the only way out. He let the void inside him and looked for his way out through the alien realm. If you touch the void, you cannot escape it completely. It will get into you and try to destroy you. You can try to fight or just give in. When Malzahar accepted the dark gift, Cassidy did not agree to take the easy way out. He stood up against the edges of the void and tried to fight them off. Even though his visions made him quake with fear, unable to control himself. And yet, he somehow survived. As in the battle, Cassidy emerged from the void as something more than a human. He was transformed, corrupted, and hurt. Part of him had died that day, but he realized that the Lord would be doomed. He had to fight monsters from the void, and not only inside him, but those trying to invade him with terror as well. Cassidy and the small group of followers who call themselves preservers of the Lord fight every sign of creatures that could be coming through the barrier. Sometimes there are more conventional methods, something using everything they have no matter what the consequences might be. Malzahar and Cassidy are natural opponents for obvious reasons. They share sources of their power, but their morality is completely different. Malzahar wants to see the world destroyed as his prophecy comes to life. He also sees Cassidy as a useful tool and would love to see him on his side. He did even kidnap Cassidy's daughter and sacrifice her to the void, hoping they would break the third Walker's spirit. Unfortunately, it didn't work out as planned. Dealings with the Prophet and Cassidy's own troubles inside the League itself. One of Voidborn, Cho'Gath, battles the League League summoners and used as a tool in the fields of justice, or he just lets them think so. Creatures of the void and Voidborns are ancient beings, who have been making their way to the Lord for long years, but it has been stopped by using ancient legend that could stop them from getting into the Lord in large numbers. A single individual who still trying to make their way through the Blooming Terror. In fact, their work has been made much easier thanks to the creation of money, which often uses summoning spells to call their champions onto the battlefield. Spells that send their subject from the void, carrying the veil between the worlds for a few moments. That is how many voidlings have been entering the Lord. Cho'Gath himself is an alien, a deadly beast coming from beyond, a dark world of the void that seems like twisted images of the Lord. The presence of the beast itself causes most people to shake in fear as the behemoth makes its way through the fields of justice, brooding on his opposition. His body is growing and swelling, and every enemy is stupid enough to stand in his way, only making him bigger and harder to deal with. What the worst part is, Cho'Gath is not just a beast. He is known for his vast intellect, perhaps even greater than one of the summoners who claim to have trapped him. Many wonder how it's possible for great beings from the void to be contained just like that, not even trying to escape his chains. And nobody's really sure if the League is using some ancient powers contained, or it's just a plot of Cho'Gath himself. One thing is for sure, if that Voidborn had been able to make his way days, how long would it take for his brothers to do the same? That would mean his work and tear his people apart, leaving nothing but scorched ground behind. And that's it. That 2 episodes should tell you everything you need to know about the World of the Champions related to it. Please leave suggestions and comments below this video for future videos. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or go back and watch all the previous episodes. And please do leave a thumbs up for this video. It really helps support us, and we appreciate all the support you can get. And as always, I'll see you next time.
That's a square plate.
A square ball, please.
How much do you want?
Square ball worth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's once again myself, Targa. I'm bringing you another episode of our Law League of Legends series. Today we're going to talk about a pair of champions who also hail from worlds far away, Carried and her sister Morgana. There's a world beyond Runeterra, a world populated by races of immortal living humanoids, a world which has been heading into war for over 10,000 years, despite how beautiful and graceful its inhabitants are. The conflict had started long ago. Nobody even remembers when exactly due to the immortality of both sides. Many battles have been fought and many people have died, but yet the conflict is far from being solved. One side has proclaimed themselves to be warriors of justice and perfect orders. They wanted to unite everyone under a common rule with common laws and equal rights, but not everyone just seemed to agree with them. Many would rather keep their personal freedom rather than sacrifice it for the illusion of safety and security. Many ancient families have been split by this conflict. Some were siding with those trying to unite the whole race. Others would rather keep their freedom and not be told what to do anymore. Philosophical disputes were barely enough to solve these problems. Kayle, the Judicator, didn't want to listen to disputes. She was a soldier and not a diplomat, and as such she would rather fight than discuss. Everyone who did not agree for her new order was an enemy to her. Some of them were given a chance to change sides, but most were deemed beyond redemption and had to be destroyed, as an obstacle being overcome. For 10,000 years, Kayle would lead her brothers and sisters into battle, hiding her beautiful form under a set of heavy mastercraft armour, wielding an ancient sword that spits living flame across the battlefield. She was truly a force to be reckoned with. Numerous battles that the Judicator had fought had finally had an effect, bringing the war against evil close to an end. But there was an opponent that Kayle didn't expect to face against. Morgana. Kayle's younger sister was always jealous of her, and when the war started she would stand on the opposite side fighting the tyranny. For that she was exiled from her own homeland, blaming Kayle for everything. The younger sister began to study forgotten ways in order to find power that allowed her to face against Kayle and best her in the field of battle. Studying the ancient magic opened a way for Morgana to gain
I'm playing.
Black magic allowed her to reach power equal to one that her older sister possessed.
I am alive again.
It also caused her body to be corrupted and changed by it. She was now not only exiled, she would be called the Fallen from now on.
How much cash do you want that?
Just that drizzle.
The war could be won,
Thank you.
and people forcefully united under a new ruler if not for Morgana. Sworn to bring his sister down, the Fallen had faced off against the Nemesis, but she was suddenly summoned to another world that she did not previously know, Runeterra. Summoners of the League were willing to cooperate with the Fallen Angel, and agreed to teach her how to increase her power. All they wanted in exchange were occasional appearances on the fields of justice, abilities that could bring her opposition to their knees, if used properly. Kayle was not given a choice. She could either give up now, or reach out for help somewhere else. The Judicator found a way to contact one of the main summoners, and offered 1,000 years of her service in exchange for leaving her world without intervention. Now, two sisters fight each other on the fields of justice, eager to finish off one another time after time. On the fields of justice it is meaningless, and so little. Morgana, however, is planning to get rid of her sister once and for all. Once the League of Justice cannot control her anymore, and seeing how Kayle agreed to serve for 1,000 years, she's got plenty of time. In the meantime, Morgana can often be seen in Noxus. When she's not busy destroying her opponents on the field of justice, she loves to spend her time mastering recipes and baking. The sinful succulence Morgana's bakery draws a lot of people who want to taste her great cupcakes, muffins, or pies. The former angel herself tends to say, there's always room for pie, even if her main focus is ending the tyranny of those who are like her sister. And with that, I will once again have to admit, that's all for today. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, let us know by pressing that like button and adding this video to your favourites. It really helps us out and gets it around. And again, leave your comments below and let us know what you think. And also suggestions for future episodes, as we do take them all into account. Another episode should be going up this Friday. Until then, as I said, leave your suggestions and comments below. You can also head over to the Facebook page and like us, follow us on Twitter, or go back and watch all the previous episodes. And as always, I'll see you next time. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Targ, and of course, once again, I'm going to talk to you about the lore of League of Legends. Today, I will provide you with information about two different champions who are related by two things. They're both related to Aeolia, and they both have been crippled trying to increase their own power. I am, of course, talking about Varus, the Arrow of Retribution, and Lee Sin, the Blind Monk. Since his younger years, Varus has been known for his unmatched skills as an archer, and as a sense of honour that he had. Even as a young boy, he was always dedicated to doing the right thing, no matter what the cost would be. For that, he would be chosen to guard a sacred temple, built in the centre of Aeolia. The temple had been built in ancient times to contain a pit of corruption that had been leaking out from the depths of Runeterra. The Aeolian elders had been afraid of the vile corruption, and wanted it to be constantly watched, to make sure it could not corrupt the island. Varus prided himself on the position that he had been awarded, as many exceptional warriors had been seen here long before he was even born. He lived in a tranquil village near the temple with his family. Varus's life was seemingly quiet and disciplined. It was split between the time with his family and guarding the pit of palace. He was one of the best, one of the elite guards, and he intended to prove it in any way necessary. When the Nox invasion on the Aeolia had begun, Noxus crushed most of Aeolia's helpless villagers, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. Varus was clearly aware of the danger, and he realised that Noxian troops would soon reach the temple. His choice was simple. Varus could either stay and make sure that his family would be safe, or fulfill his duty as a ruler. The decision wasn't easy. The village did not have any defenders, and it probably get completely destroyed. But Varus was bound by his honour to protect the pit no matter what the cost. He grabbed his bow and left the village behind him. The corruption could not be unleashed by anyone under any circumstances, and Varus left to fulfill his duty. Many had fallen under the rain of arrows that had been coming from the direction of the temple. Many had run away, trying to save their own lives. Finally, Varus had an opportunity to prove himself, but it was not one that the man had expected. He could feel the burden of his decision. He didn't have to be in his village to know what was happening there. The Noxians had been pushed back, but Varus wasn't happy. When he came back to his village, he saw something much worse than he expected. His house had been reduced to a smouldering graveyard, together with every single building in his village. His guilt quickly gave way to regret, and finally a burning hatred for those who committed this crime. The warden had boldly sworn to kill every single Noxian soldier to ever step on Aeolia's land. But to fulfill his promise he needed more power. He was forced the temple doors open and stepped inside. He had sacrificed everything to protect this corruption from spreading, but now he had nothing else to lose. Stepping between the flames, he had allowed them to consume his flesh and soul in exchange for power that it could offer him. His skin had been corrupted, his body broken, and his spirit filled with hunger for revenge. Somehow Varus was fine with that. He has now left Aeolia, seeking out everyone related to Noxus. His journey has finally led him to the Institute of War, where the League is stationed. There he found most of the masterminds behind the attack on Aeolia, as well as those who caused deaths of hundreds of Ionians. Lee Sin, similarly to Varus, had been showing great potential since the early days of his training, but his biggest dream and goal in life was becoming a summoner. He worked hard for it, trying to impress those around him with the power of his own. Not only skills that he possessed, but also his will and dedication made Lee stand out in the crowd. Those qualities that many candidates lacked has intrigued one of the head summoners in the League's High Councillor, Reginald Ashram. While still studying magic at university, Lee Sin had been too impatient. While he understood that he still had much to learn, the lessons were prepared for more average people and not more talented individuals such as himself. He wanted to know more than that. Lee Sin had started learning on his own from books that he could find in the library. He wanted to know more about something and graduate earlier. That helped Lee to surpass everyone on his year and showed potential to be one of the greatest summoners that had ever stepped into the League. That was until he made a grave mistake. To impress his teachers and fellow students, Lee wanted to perform a ritual on his own. His goal was to summon a dire beast from within the plague jungle. That was not exactly what he summoned though. The resulting summon was far away from intended. In a flash of light right in front of him, Lee Sin could see a dead body of a child split into several pieces because of the ritual itself. Later investigations had provided evidence that the boy was not the only victim, as the whole village had been destroyed due to the side effects of the ritual of Lee Sin. While the League was willing to forget about this incident, due to numerous talents that Lee Sin had shown that could be valuable to the League, he was not. Lee couldn't forgive himself for his mistake in sacrificing lives just to prove his own power. Instead of continuing his education, Lee Sin made his way to Ionia, where he joined one of the monasteries, swearing to never use magic again. There, he led a calm life, without any problems from the outer world. Years later, Lee found an opportunity to pay for his crime. After Ionia's first lost match to Noxus, he would protest against the occupation as a martyr, setting his own body on fire, and using remained alive in that state. His flesh was burning for long weeks, his skin cracking, and his eyes burning out of his skull. His sacrifice paved the way for Ionia to get a rematch that allowed it to banish Noxians from their own island. Once Ionia was independent again, Lee Sin had been doused and hailed as a hero. He's been reborn, his will to act, reborn. He was now ready to leave his past behind and continue it as a monk, mastering a way of blood and sweat. To do so, he volunteered to join the League and fight for Ionia if his country would ever need him. That's all we have for once again, guys. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let us know by pressing the like button and leaving this video to your favourites. It helps us out a great deal and we really appreciate the support from you guys. You could head over to our Facebook page and give us a like on that, follow us on Twitter, or go back and watch all the previous episodes using the annotation at the top. And as always, I'll see you next time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, it is Targran, and I'm bringing you even more lore of League of Legends. This time around, we've prepared a much requested episode as we're going to talk about Narcissus and reenacting. Enjoy. Like many champions before him, Narcissus has been summoned to the Valoran thanks to the actions of the League's summoners, who've been looking for powerful beings that could fight on the fields of justice. Before his summoning, Narcissus was part of a great desert empire, one of the animalistic guardians that was supposed to watch over people of the empire and help them. Narcissus himself was a watcher of the great library on his home world, and he always was fulfilling that duty to his best. Unfortunately, many of his brothers thought otherwise, seeing how their race was entrusted with many difficult duties, they would assume that they are superior to humans in any way. This quickly led to many of the keepers growing impatient and greedy. They wanted to enslave humans and start a totalitarian rule. A war was started between those who wanted power and those who would much rather stick to the duties they were entrusted with. As gaining power was not their goal, during one of the battles when Narcissus was about to strike a final blow to his treacherous brother Renekton, he was suddenly pulled away. This enraged Narcissus. He was about to cripple his opposition in a really major way, perhaps even allowing him to end the war. But he had now time he was on Valoran, standing in the middle of a summoning circle. He wanted to fight his way out to freedom, but his intellect has allowed him to control himself and not hurt the summoners, but instead heal them out. The situation of this world that he was currently on had been explained to him in great detail. The summoners told him about unfair wars that had been fought on the coast of Valoran before creation of the League and how important it was. It took Narcissus a long while to make up his mind, but he understood that there was even more injustice on Valoran than in his home world, and his brothers back home would still defend their cause even without him. He would agree to stay in Valoran and serve as part of the League. When he's not spending his time inside the Institute of War, Narcissus tends to spend his time around Shurima Desert, as it reminds him greatly of his home. Renekton is quite a different case. While both him and his brother were entrusted with the duty of guarding the Great Library, Narcissus' task was to guard the knowledge and share it with those who are worthy, giving them teachings of the cycle of life and death. He was guarding ancient scrolls and their content. Renekton, on the other hand, was a gatekeeper. It was his duty to check everyone who wanted to gain access into the temple and decide whether they were good and worthy of entering, or should they be sent away with nothing. As their dark ambitions couldn't be allowed to grow, and neither should those people gain any additional power. This exposure to the evil that is lurking in the hearts of men has made Renekton more and more annoyed with humans and how weak they are. Too easy to manipulate, too easy to be corrupted. The weaknesses annoyed the gatekeeper at first, but over time it was bringing him deeper and deeper into the madness. Renekton has found a way to quell this fury. Every time he found anyone corrupted by evil, he would just cut it out, tearing his body apart and find the source of the corruption, just to destroy it. While that helped him control the rage, it was very short relief. Renekton prayed for more and more victims to stop his rage, and it gave him the name, the Butcher of the Sands. Consumed by the rage and anger within himself, Renekton has joined those of his race who wanted to take direct control over humans. He believed that this would allow him to stop the spread of evil within the weak race of humans. Realizing his own power and the fact that not many could stand against him, Renekton has chosen to fight his brother Narcissus. He realized that Narcissus' power was not enough to not only stop him, but destroy him as well. They had found one another in the heat of battle and faced off. At first Narcissus had tried to make peace with his brother and calm him down, but after a few moments, he had been deemed beyond redemption, and Narcissus himself had to strike Renekton down. They had been trading blows, but Narcissus quickly gained the advantage, sending his brother down onto the floor, ready to finish him off. But then something happened. A powerful explosion of magical energy had sucked Narcissus into it, and had also drawn Renekton into it. But while Narcissus had been teleported right to his destination, Renekton was far less lucky. He had been stuck between dimensions for what seemed like ages. It was unknown for him how much time had passed, but his fury was still growing within him, turning him into more of a beast than anything else. What neither of the brothers knew was the fact that this summon was meant for Renekton himself. When he finally woke up in the sewers of Zorn, he was insane with rage. His only goal was to find his brother and finish what they had started before. Renekton made his place his home for now, but then he would smell a familiar scent in the air. He cut his way out of the Zornite sewers, killing many on his way, and as soon as he reached the exit, he caught even more clear scent of his brother, Narcissus. The scent had led him into the Institute of War, where summoners had already been waiting for him with a trial. They intended to bring him there before to make use of his fury, and he was finally here. His trial was but a formality, as the League had finally wanted one brother they had wanted, the brutal and unpredictable Renekton. And that's just done for this particular video. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, let us know by pressing that like button, or adding this video to your favourites. It really helps us out a great deal. Until the next video is ready, you can actually head over to the Facebook page and like us on there, follow us on Twitter, or go back and watch other previous episodes. And as always, I'll see you next time. Welcome ladies and gentlemen, it's Targon here once again, bringing you another War of League of Legends. In this episode we're going to talk about Warwick and Soraka, as well as the relationship between those two. Enjoy. Soraka Soraka, the Star Child of Ionia, was probably the first creature of a kind to ever step onto Valorum. While the continent knows many mages who tap magical power of runes into their spells to achieve a particular effect, Soraka has been reaching out much further. She was reaching out to the power of the cosmos and the stars themselves in order to gain her magical power. While power of the runes is limited and often corrupting, that couldn't be said about pure magic coming from the stars. The power that Soraka possessed was meant to be used for healing, and Soraka had used its potential as much as she could. Once upon a time she could use to be an immortal being, watching worlds from far beyond, but she sacrificed her immortality in order to help living beings. For centuries she has lived in an ancient grove where people could always come and beg for her help. More often than not, she would help them. When a man called Warwick entered her grove, she was willing to help him just like anyone else. He was carrying his own dead wife in his arms, begging Soraka to heal her and give her life back. Everything that Soraka had tried had no effect, and so she had to give up. With no way to help his wife, Soraka offered her guidance to the desperate man to help him alleviate his pain. Warwick would refuse and run away from the grove, angry for his loss and unwilling to listen to Soraka's advice. Yet he would return a few days later to listen to the Star Child's advice. They had spent many days together, as Warwick had been learning to live with his loss, to accept it and to let it go. The healer would even grow attached to the man over time. One day Warwick would announce that he found the men who murdered his wife, and would inform Soraka that nothing but revenge could help heal his pain. He assured her that death wouldn't be the worst thing that could happen to him, as he would at least find his peace. Ignoring her pleas, Warwick left the grove. At first Soraka wanted to let him go, as the stars had suggested, but she would decide that she had to intervene and protect the man. When Soraka stepped out into the outer world for the first time in her life, she soon found Warwick fighting off a group of men. The situation was looking grim, and her friend was desperately trying not to fall. Soraka ran in and began to heal his wounds. With every wound she could heal, 2 more were inflicted. Feeling powerless, Soraka had charged in and called the power of the stars. She was never supposed to act that way, but at this point she was focused on saving her friend's life, no matter what the cost would be. Calling a brilliant light to strike 2 opponents of Warwick, she would scare them away, but at the same time her celestial form had slowly faded out, and the voices of the stars in her head were getting more and more silent. Her power was still within her, but she could no longer ask for their guidance. Slowly approaching Warwick, she could kneel down and heal his wounds, one by one, comforting the man and herself. Maybe she had broken the rules that were given to her, but at least she had saved her close friends. That was until she could feel a sharp pain below her ribs, as Warwick had pulled a knife from her sleeve and shoved it deep into Soraka's flesh. She realized that it had all been a ruse. Warwick tried to run away with the weapon, but once again Soraka called upon the power within her, and the power struck Warwick, searing his flesh and cursing him. He had no other choice but to run, leaving the knife